evening, Niner fans. How are we feeling? Day 2 of the free agency frenzy. Hasn't really been a big frenzy for the 49ers. We're going to talk about that. We did sign some players, but it seems like people are generally getting a little impatient today. A lot of teams made some moves. DeMeco Ryans cooking. The Eagles started cooking. The Commanders are cooking. Listen, man, Adam Peters went over to the Washington Commanders, and he's changing that team already. He's going all in free agency, signing big names after big names. He's a great GM already. He knew this was his moment, and he left the Niners, and he's cooking it up out there in Washington. And DeMeco Ryans, man. Whoo! My man went all in. This team is unbelievable. Watch out for Houston Texans. But let's talk about the 49ers, shall we? Day 2, there's been some news. The 49ers extended their special teams ace safety, George Odom, earlier today. They extended him. You love to see that. I think he's a solid player, a guy that, could come in and start if needed, but he's really good on special teams. One of the best special teamers in terms of, tackling and everything like that. So that was a good signing. I mean, I know it wasn't like a splash move, but he's a really good role player. He missed some time last year, due to injury. But I'll tell you what, despite he missed 6 games last year because of the injury, but he had 31 special teams tackles, and it was the first in the NFL over the past 2 seasons. The next closest player had 27. So definitely a great special teams addition. Like to have him back, good veteran, but we still need depth and safety. But that was the first move of the day. 49ers brought back George Odom, extended him. So, I mean, I liked it. I thought it was a good move. You need to have special teams good, right? And special teams is definitely an important part of the game, and he was one of the better ones. And, so his contract was 2 years worth a maximum of $10.8 million. For one of the best special teamers in the league, that's definitely well worth it. But still lacking, big-time quality players. People want to be signing. But, again, I thought he was a solid player. I like him, good tackler, and nice to have him back. So Steven Reynolds says, Odom is the best, the leader of the special teams. Absolutely. What's good, S. Flood? What's up, everybody? How are we feeling? My man, Medulla Oblongata, I love the name, says, do you think free agents want to come to San Francisco? I mean, I think they do, but at the same time, the Niners just don't have a lot of money. They've been trying to restructure contracts. I mean, that's the sense I get. I feel like the 49ers don't have a lot of money to spend. They're kind of trying to make sure they get the money for Brandon Ayuk. I think players would love to come with the Niners. They're a very good team. They're a winning team. They got one of the best rosters in football, despite not, making fans happy in free agency. They're still one of the best teams in the league, arguably still the best team in the NFC. People are chasing the Niners, trying to get their roster to look like the 49ers. So, yeah, I definitely think people want to come. But you got to also realize the taxes in California are tough. Sometimes players will see that and I don't know if I want to sign there. But ultimately, I think players want to go to the Niners. But at the same time, I don't know if the Niners are able to sign certain players. They've signed 3 guys this week, and it's basically the price of like one key splash player. Instead of going for the big splash, they're getting veterans and, depth players because injuries happen, and you need to have quality players that can step in a pinch. They lost a lot of players. Clelin Ferrell went to Washington. They replaced him. They got yesterday Yetur Gross-Matos. He's a guy that can play like Ferrell on the line. They lost Chase Young, who's meeting with several teams today, New Orleans, the Panthers. He's also going to meet with the Titans this week. So you bring in Leonard Floyd. He's a good edge rusher, and he can bring presence off the end on the opposite side of Nick Bosa. So they brought him in. They're probably not going to bring back Randy Gregory. So, again, you get that Leonard Floyd. And today, the other signing, let's talk about that. The 49ers signed Jordan Elliot, defensive tackle of the Browns. They needed interior linemen. Obviously, the Armstead situation is still kind of up in the air. There was reports that he's still not officially released. They'll probably release him tomorrow. But the end of the era is pretty much going to be done. But they're still not 100%. I don't know. It's just the Armstead situation is a little weird because it's not official yet. We'll know more tomorrow if they officially just release him, to make it a post June 1st cut. But still, they need defensive tackles, and that's what they did today. They brought in Jordan Elliot of the Browns. Not bad, good depth. He's played 31 out of 34 games as a starter in the last 2 years. So he's been able to go in there and start. And the Browns' defensive line and defense has been very good. So I like the guy. Cheaper option if they don't get Armstead back. 2 years, $10 million. So it's a good cheaper option, and he can plug in, and he's a run stuffer. The Niners need run stuffers because run defense has been an issue for them. So overall, not a bad move for the 49ers. If you look at their players they signed, yeah, they're not big names, they're not splashy names, but they're guys that they can plug in. And you got to remember, they have the best defensive line coach in the NFL, the most highest paid defensive line coach in the NFL, Chris Kasurg, very good player, or very good players coach. He's very good at developing these linemen. Every year, what happens? They bring in linemen, Chris Kasurg molds them, and then they leave and they get a big contract. So I think the guys that the 49ers get are pretty much right up their alley. They're the type of guys the 49ers want to get. Again, Gross Matos, Jordan Elliot, and Leonard Floyd. So I think overall they got the guys they wanted to get, not the guys that we wanted. We wanted big names, Christian Wilkins, Daniel Hunter. We could have got those guys, but for the price of one of them, the Niners got three guys. So that's the way the Niners go. They went and got depth instead of a splash. But we'll see. And what allowed them to do that though is Fred Warner. So we found more details on Fred Warner's restructure. The man, he converted about $10 million worth of cap space. He's getting paid like $1.1 million veteran minimum. He converted his salary into a $14 million bonus. And basically what happened was he took the money in a bonus. They're going to have incentives on his contract. And not only that, it created $10 million of cap space. Like we said it yesterday, Fred Warner's such a team player. But come on, man. Doing that is fantastic for this team. He's a captain. This is a real one. I said it yesterday, and I wasn't joking. Build this man a statue outside the stadium. The guy is nothing but pure class. He's doing what he can to help this team win. You got to love it. Absolutely love it. Fred Warner is a guy, man. He's a G. Absolutely. My man Red Eye says Texans got Aziz and Hunter. Yeah, they talk about DeMeco Ryans, man. He really is going on a killing spree in free agency, man. That team is, whoo. Let's talk about this. Look at the Texans, man. I'll tell you, DeMeco, he ain't playing games. Look at this guy. This is what the Texans defense. They have Will Anderson, Daniel Hunter, Denico Autry. They have Malik Collins. They have Aziz Al-Shahir, Christian Harris, Derek Stingley Jr., Jeff Okudah. Whew. Man, built a nasty defense. And they traded for Joe Mixon today. I'm telling you, DeMeco Ryans is absolutely cooking. We said yesterday, Niners are slow cooking, crock pot cooking. Bro, I'm telling you, DeMeco, he's fast fire cooking. He is putting the shit on the stove and letting it go, smoking that gas. I think DeMeco and the Texans are really, really looking to become a elite, top-notch contender in the NFL. And they got a young quarterback, Stroud, who just shook the world by storm, and it was like, wow. So absolutely got to love what DeMeco's doing. My man Great One says Armstead's been restructuring for the last 3 years, and look what they did to him. But at the end of the day, he is older. He has had a lot of injuries. I think there's cause for restructuring, but that's what the 49ers do. They take these big contracts and they kick the can down the line. They restructure, they kick the can, they restructure, kick the can, they restructure. Eventually, it's got to catch up. Eventually, that's got to catch up to you. At some point, you got to be like, okay, at some point, you have to realize, like, hey, we keep restructuring these contracts. It's going to come back to us, and we're going to have to pay some big money, and you're going to have to take mid-level, B-list type guys, and that's what the 49ers do. They get some nice guys, they bring them in, they use them as rentals like Chase Young and stuff, and then when they leave, they'll get a mid-level type guy, and then they're going to get compensatory picks. They're going to get a comp pick out of, Chase Young, and they're going to retool in the draft. The 49ers build their team through the draft, and I think that's why we're not really seeing too many big free agent signings. 49ers will get those mid-level guys, but they build right through the draft, and that's how it is every single year. It's their proven strategy. It's their formula. And if you're not privy to it, you're going to be frustrated because you're like, oh, God, they're not signing it. But it's because sometimes when they do sign a big name, you're like, oh, hook that straight to my veins. I'm so addicted to the high. You get addicted to the high of the free agency. You're like, oh, man, I need it. I need that hit. It feels good when the 49ers break news and you see the updates and you see the breaking news posts and you see the highlights. You're like, oh, my God. Like, it is a shot of adrenaline to the system. So I think that's why fans are like, we need to get them. And also, you want new players. You want to build your team a better roster because you look around the league and you're like, oh man, the Eagles are getting better. Look what the Eagles did. Look at what this team did. Look at the Packers. So you feel a little scared. You start panicking. You're like, are they going to be better than us? They upgraded their roster? Are we going to be able to? So I get it. As a fan, you're like, shit, man. Teams are getting better. Are the 49ers getting better? Maybe not, but the team is the best in the league. It's hard for the best to get better at the end of the day. So we build because of Adam Peters, says Mario. It will be interesting to see how the 49ers draft without Peters this year. That is definitely a true statement. He's cooking in Washington. So my man Flood says Niners have been smart. They need depth. They're going to have to pay Brandon, and Brock needs to be smart with spending. Yeah, I agree. They have players they have to prioritize. And unfortunately, when they prioritize guys, we're going to lose players. And this happens every single year. Absolutely every single year. Um, I think that's a good point. They have money that they have to allocate for players like Brandon Ayuk and then next year, Brock Purdy. So we'll definitely see. Scott says the concern lies in the fact that it seems like the last couple of drafts haven't been so great. We don't seem to be hitting as many late rounders as we once were. I can agree with that statement. Like usually it's like we hit every time. I feel like the jury's still out on the last two drafts. I agree with that. I would say you're right. I feel like last year's draft still really hasn't permeated many big stars. I think Jair Brown's going to be a great player. I think he's going to become a starter and really be able to have that um, nice level of what's the word I'm looking for of um, talent that we need to see out of a draft pick and really be able to be a productive. That's the word I was looking for. A very productive player on this roster. I think Jair Brown definitely was fantastic. And I think that's going to be a guy we're like, okay, yeah, that was a nice draft pick, but he was an early round pick, so you expect him to be good. Those late round picks last year, they still really didn't produce. Luter, he had the injuries. Robert Beal, he had the injuries, but he looks promising. The year before, Sam Womack looked promising, but he had injuries. Kalia Davis, he looks like he could be something, but he had injuries. So I feel like a lot of these young players that they drafted could be something, but they hadn't really had a lot of time. Cameron Latu didn't look too great, but they don't have Dwelly and Charlie Warner. Charlie Warner went to Atlanta, so could those guys, develop the rookie tight end they drafted last year? They took two linebackers last year. They didn't really get to see any time. So will those linebackers get better? A lot of people are expecting D. Winters' stock to go up because of the linebacker issues they have with, Flanagan Fowles is a free agent, Oren Burks is a free agent, Dre Greenlaw's coming off the massive injury. So you're right. These youngsters have to step up. And I think that's a great comment in the fact that, yeah, these last two drafts haven't really panned out yet because it's still early. But if the team is building through the draft, we need to see those draft picks permeate and be like, okay, that's what we expected out of these guys. So, yeah, it's a great comment. I like that. I think that's a good statement. That was a good comment for the chat. So, let's see. Flood says Niners pay their own. I think Lynch does have a trade up his sleeve. I think the Niners should try Tyron Smith. We'll see. Tomorrow is the official first day of free agency when deals are official. And usually on Wednesday, usually on this day, that's when the sign and trades happen. That's when the trades happen. So you could be right. Maybe the 49ers are waiting for someone to get cut. And a lot of times when people cut their players, boom, they hit the mark and the Niners pound or teams pound. So that could be something we're waiting for. Because right now, I mean, let's be honest. I like the signings that the Niners had. I'm not going to say I don't. We don't know how they're going to fit into this roster, but I think they were good signings. But right now, to be honest, it's not like, oh my God, wow, holy moly. The Niners went and got, Leonard Floyd and Yetur Gross-Matos and Jordy. It's not like, oh my God, but it's still nice. They needed those. They needed depth because I said it before, losing Ebukam, Omenuhu, Jordan Willis the last year, it really hurt their roster. They just didn't have guys to take those snaps. They were trying to sign guys all year. Chase Young, Randy Gregory, Austin Bryant was not really what they expected. Clelin Ferrell got hurt. So they needed that depth on the D-line. So I think it was okay to sign those guys. I know a lot of people are pissed off. Oh, why are you going D-line? We need offensive line. They need offensive line, but they also created a hole on the defensive line. They absolutely needed those guys. And the 49ers, it's like they retool the D-line every year because they get the one and dones, the pump and dump guys that Chris Kasurik develops on this line. Next, okay, boom, let's get the next D-line develop him. Okay, he's going to go get paid. Next year, okay, we get the next defensive line. Boop, 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 boop. They always do this every year. They get refreshed legs on the D-line. So to me, it's nothing new. Well, of course, people are like, oh, they need offensive line. But this is the 49ers system, the formula that's gotten them to the NFC Championship, to the Super Bowl. So honestly, they haven't really done anything that's out of the ordinary. They're doing what they normally do. I feel like just they need to emphasize the offensive line more, and everybody's saying it because they've been saying this for years. And this is the year where like finally just go get offensive line. But at the same time, there's like mid offensive linemen available. They got to go through the draft. So yeah, I think this is a good point. The only way the Niners move in the draft for offensive line is to trade a first to a team not looking for offensive linemen high in the draft. I think that's a true statement. Like if there's a team and they call them and say, hey, we want to move into, I don't know, 15, 14 spot. And they're like, yeah, we don't want the offensive lineman. Okay, we'll trade back because we want blah, blah, blah. I think that's the only way that they move into the like the early part of the first round. I think that's a true statement because if they're really gung-ho on getting a big-time elite offensive lineman like a tackle, you got to have a top 15 pick. So I think that's a true statement. But we'll see. Again, I'm not like, oh, God, this team is because there's people out there that are saying 49ers are cooked. They're done. They're seeing every other team making moves, and they're like, oh, they're cooked. They're good. We're done. They're done. They're done. It's still early. It's second day of free agency. We got to wait. We got to see how this goes out. Still have a Super Bowl roster. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Brock Purdy, et cetera, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, all those guys. So it's still a great roster. I'll get off my soapbox. DJ Reader, definitely would like him. Mekhi Becton, I'll take him. I mean, any of those guys that you know, those free agents, there's a lot of good players I would still love to take on this roster. Absolutely. But it has to make financial sense. Can the 49ers do it? Can they swing it? It just comes down to the money. If the 49ers can't financially do it, they're not going to do it. I think there's a lot of players we would all love to see on this team. Mekhi Becton is fantastic. He would be great. But what Ian Sharp says right here is a true statement. The 49ers are not going to overspend. They already have spent a lot of money. And what Flood said earlier, SF Flood said, the 49ers pay their own guys. They're not going to reward someone that's not on their team. If they didn't develop the player, if they didn't draft him, chances of them rewarding him is probably not as high as someone they draft and they want to, pay down the line. They love to get their homegrown talent. Deebo Samuel, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, George Kittle. You go down the list. Those players that they draft, that they develop, that become stars, they will pay them. Brandon Ayuk is next. So if it's somebody that they really don't have ties to, they're not going to waste their time. So we'll see how it goes. Speaking of we'll see how it goes, I'm sure you guys saw the news, the big news of the day. Actually, this is kind of the biggest news of the free agency week right now. We're going to take a little break from talking about the acquisitions, who the 49ers have brought in, but we want to talk about the big news of the day. Deebo Samuel, my boy Deebo, he changed his number. He changed his number from 19 to number 1. I thought it's pretty dope. A lot of people are upset because he change his jersey number. People spend the money on the jersey. We got the 19 jersey. I've had this jersey at many games. It's brought me a lot of luck. It's brought the team, some great moments. Brought me some moments. We're officially retiring the number 19. I said it a week ago. I remember I posted it. He changed his IG username to one Deebo SR, and I posted it, and I was like, is he changing his number? Is this changing his number? He posted on his story, y'all fools don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, oh, man, maybe he's cooking me. Maybe he's not. He goes on the Up and Adams show, and he tells Kay Adams, no, I'm not changing my number. Not changing my number. And he says, my son's Deebo Jr., I'm Deebo Sr., that's all it is. Bro, boom, today breaks the internet and says I'm changing my number to number 1. That is crazy. Niners dropped the news, this and that. He lied to Kay Adams. She tweeted, she goes, he lied straight to my face. He was just trying to keep it under wraps because I DM'd him a couple weeks ago. I was like, my bad. I don't know. Maybe I was just reaching. And he was like, LOL. It's all good, fam. That's what he tweeted back. That's what he texted me in the DM. So I actually archived the post. I was like, I feel stupid. Maybe he's not changing the number. And then I archived the post. That boy didn't want me to break the news. He didn't want anybody else to break the news. So he broke it himself today. He stood up there and he tweeted he's going to number 1. So that was pretty cool. I like the number. He wore number 1 in college. Uno 1, that was his number That was his handle back in the day. I think it's cool. I know a lot of people don't care because it's a jersey number. You're like, who cares about the jersey win a Super Bowl? But I love Deebo, man. That's my guy. And you know what? Changing your jersey number and the 49ers posting it all over social media, that pretty much tells you they're not trading away Deebo Samuel. That right there is confirmation. If you were wondering the 49ers were going to trade Deebo Samuel, that's pretty much the confirmation all you need. They just made new number 1 jerseys. So that's that's really what that means to me. So what's D Ford going on? Let's see. Let's take a look at some of these comments. My man says we only have 1 second-round pick and 1 third-round pick. Normally we have 3 to 4 third-round picks. Yeah, it's we have 11 picks, but not a lot of them up on the top of the draft. We have a lot of compensatory picks, so it's good. But the Niners have to hit on these draft picks. We were talking about it earlier. Who are they going to get? Who can they draft? And again, we're going to see a different draft maybe because Adam Peters isn't there. We're really going to see how involved Peters was, how much he really wasn't involved. We're going to see what he does in Washington. It's going to be interesting this year to see how the Niners stack up in this draft. So there's 49ers media. There's Throwback. What's good? As long as we ain't losing him, do what you want, Samuel. Exactly, Jax. I think it's cool he changed the number. I know it's like whatever. That's kind of the coolest news of the day. We didn't really, we signed Jordan Elliot, but like I said, kind of a middle tier player. It is what it is. We needed defensive tackle depth, but honestly, looking through all the news of the day, other than Fred Warner's restructure, I was like, okay, Deebo, that kind of cool news. So we definitely need to make those early picks count, Ian. Yeah, Nike's not going to be able to sell those. Number 19. They got to switch up to number 1. Yeah. Julia says, would you trade this year's first, second, and next year's second to move into the top 15? Oh, that's a lot. This year's first, second, and next year's second to move in the top 15. 3 picks to move 16 spots. That's basically like trading 3 firsts to get it to the number 3 spot. That's all. I wouldn't do it, Julius. That's too much. That's too rich for my blood. A first and 2 seconds to move 16 spots. Whoever the hell you draft better be fucking fantastic if you do that. And then I think someone also said it. You got to make those first round picks count. You got to make those picks count. I don't think they should. I would not. I don't know. Steven, good question. He says, do you think the 49ers will focus on offensive tackle in the draft if we get DJ Jones in a trade? I don't think they're going to get DJ Jones. According to Mike Silver today, who initially kind of predicted, I don't know if it was what his insider information told him, but he did make a thread a couple of days ago before the free agency period started. And he said the 49ers are probably looking into DJ Jones. A lot of people were rumoring that. But this morning, he reported that it looks like the Broncos are going to keep DJ Jones and they're not going to trade him. So I don't know, or they're not going to get rid of him. So it looks like the Broncos are going to be keeping DJ Jones. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Tomorrow's going to be a big day. You're going to see a lot of people get cut. You're going to see a lot of people get traded. You're going to see more free agent signings. We'll see what happens with Armstead maybe. But I don't think they're going to get DJ Jones. And regardless, I still think the Niners are going to go after offensive linemen in the draft. But I don't think they're going to get them as high as we think. I think we all think they're going to go for a lineman early. I don't know. If there's a better player available, and I said this many times, best player available, you go and get that player rather than force yourself to take the lineman if he's not as good. If he's not as high as he should be on your board and you're just going to force the pick, don't do it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, any case, what do you guys think? How did you guys feel about the 49ers signing Jordan Elliot today? I think, again, that was the big acquisition today. Are you mad? Are you happy? It seemed like a cheaper deal. It feels like you're going to get a productive guy that doesn't get hurt and be able to plug up the gaps, And I think that is the biggest takeaway I have of the 49ers acquisition so far in free agency is they're durable. They're durable players. They're durable. Knock on wood, they stay that way. But these guys have not had injury history. They've played a lot of games. They don't miss time. And that's what the 49ers got. They got rid of players that have had injury history, and they're bringing in solid players that are consistent and they have not had much injuries. I think that's the biggest takeaway for me. Like, I know people are like, oh, he's mid, he's mid. He doesn't miss games. The guy, Leonard Floyd, hasn't missed a game in 108 games. Like I said, Jordan Elliot, 31 of 34 starts, and he didn't miss a game. So, my man Media says Jordan Elliott signing is good for stopping the run, but it seems some of the 49ers reporting saying he's going to start, which I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, what if he's good? You don't know. We'll see. Maybe. I mean, at the end of the day, Armstead didn't play half the season. You're going to need, see, here's the thing. If Armstead, let's say Armstead is on the team. Let's just play a hypothetical. If Armstead's on the team and he has plantar fasciitis flare up by week 4, guess what? Jordan Elliott's going to start anyway. So what's the big deal? If he's good, he's good. He started 31 out of 34 games for the Browns. They had a damn good defense, my man. You need to plug the gaps and stop the run. He's a starter in the NFL. He started 31 out of the last 34 games for the Browns. You need him to plug the gaps on defense. That's all you need him to do. Make sure you stuff the run. I think he's good. I like it. I hope you're wrong. You are wrong, Media. You're absolutely wrong. Bosa or Mac tomorrow, Mario? I have a feeling Mac is going to the Rams. You know what? I kind of feel like you're right. Why are you in my head? I said this earlier today. I said, you know what? The Chargers are going to release Khalil Mack, and boom, the Rams are going to snipe him up. I have a feeling because the Rams are going to need to add that edge pressure. They've been missing that. You know, they didn't have Von Miller. A couple of years back, they had Von Miller's Super Bowl run. They didn't have Leonard Floyd anymore. They had those guys, those edge rushers, and I think that they're going to try to bring him in. I agree with you, and I hope it doesn't happen. Yeah. My man David McNiner, what's good, my man? He says Jordan Elliott is a dirty work guy. I like it. He's gritty, dirty work. I like that. I agree. He's just going to get in there and get his hands dirty in the trenches. And he's a dog, man. I like the Jordan Elliott signing. He's cheaper. He's going to not miss games, and he's going to do what Armstead did. Plug the gaps, stop the run, get your hand in the dirt, play dirty, and you cost half the money that he had been given. So I think you're right. My man Julia says, do you think Drake Jackson is capable of being a consistent rotational player for the 49ers? I hope that he is. I think the Niners want him to be a starter. They had high hopes for this guy. First season, body wasn't ready to take the full season load. Kyle told him, get your ass in shape, good work. Came out the gates hot last year, and then he got injured. So his body has to be able to hold up in the NFL. I really think they want him to be a star player in this league. I think we're past the star player, and I think at this point, Julius, is you're right, the 49ers need him to at least just be a rotational player. His second-round pick, he was one of their crowning draft picks over the last 2 years. We talked about this earlier. I can't remember who said the comment, but somebody said, you know, I feel like their draft hasn't hit over the last 2 years like it usually does. And that is another case in point. Usually they're 50-50 pretty much on their early picks, and they're usually much better in the late round. But this second round pick of Drake Jackson, he hasn't hit, and it's kind of an issue. If you have all these, you know, second round picks, third round picks that aren't hitting, eventually not getting free agents, eventually not hitting in the draft is going to cost you. So you have to be able to hit, and you got to pray that Drake Jackson can be a solid player in this rotation. I hope so, but I don't know, man. He's had 2 years, and it just hasn't looked like he could be a solid player on this team. The injuries really are tough, but he's young. I think he has the drive, the determination. I mean, he was grinding last offseason. He was in the gym every single day. He posted every day on his story, like I'm in the gym. I'm training. I'm here in the facility. Every single day. I remember he posted every single day, stacking days. He has the determination. So we'll see what happens. We'll see. This team is getting, my man Joe Boyd says, this team is getting worse. We're not making the playoffs. It's Kyle's fault because of the bad drafts last couple of years. I mean, to say they're not making the playoffs is crazy. I still think they'll make the playoffs at very least. Look at the roster. You still got Purdy, who's going to get better. You got Trent Williams is still there. Might be his last year. We'll see. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings most likely be back. Kittle. That offense is still top offense in the league. You still got Warner, Bosa, Mooney Ward, Diamond Lenore. It's crazy, man. They still got a solid team. It's not like they won't make playoffs. I get it. Other teams around them got better. The Lions, the Packers. It's not like it's going to be easy, but it never is. But to say the 49ers are not going to make playoffs, to me, that's a little outlandish, but we'll see. I still think they're going to be very competitive in the NFC overall. NFC West, definitely still trying to catch up to the Niners. They got two teams with new coaches. Cardinals and the Seahawks have two new coaches. Will they be able to, take their team to the next level? We'll see. First time new head coaches. It's not easy for them. The Rams definitely are a team to always keep an eye on. McVay, he's a good coach, and they have a solid team. Puka, he'll get better. We'll see. Would I sign Jadeveon Clowney, says Julius? Yeah, go bring him in. He played really good last year, and he was healthy. It's not bad depth. At this point, you just need depth. You need bodies. Go bring Jadeveon Clowney. He was really good for the Ravens last year. I would love it. Just hope he could stay healthy, because last year was kind of like an anomaly for him. He had some issues staying healthy over the couple of years, but last year was fantastic for him. So definitely, I'd bring him in. Oh, this is a good comment. My man, Niner Faithful Forever says, people are forgetting that we're getting Hufanga back. Yeah. Hufanga's a dog, man, and they are getting him back. It's going to be a big return. I just hope that his knee holds up and he's going to be, that same dog he was. I'm sure he's going to be motivated and just go out there and crush it. But you always worry when a guy's coming off a big injury like that. But yeah, Hufanga, that was a big loss last year. I'm not going to lie. I feel like that was such a tough loss. The secondary was, reeling to get off. His instincts, his run defense, he's just knack for making big plays was missed. So. My man, Joe Elliott is not a good defensive tackle. He's not better than Armstead. Maybe not, but he'll play. Armstead missed a whole lot of games. And I think that, again, the biggest takeaway from the 49ers signings are durable players that are going to play. So even if Armstead's better, if he's sitting on the bench, then he's not better than Jordan Elliott. That's the whole point of the 49ers signings this offseason, is the players that are going to be on the team are going to play in the game. Most likely, knock on wood, make sure they stay healthy. But that's the big takeaway. Armstead is fantastic, but he's not helping your team when he's sitting on the bench and he's going through the week rehabbing his plantar fasciitis. So I think that's really the biggest takeaway of the 49ers signings are, yeah, we might have players that are not as good as the players we're losing, but at least they're staying on the field. I think the Niners would rather take production over bench warmers, or not bench warmers, but players that are sitting on the bench, keeping it warm. So, boom. The Jets signed Javon Kinlaw to a 1-year deal. So the official, the details of Kinlaw's deal, the details of Javon Kinlaw's deal just came out from Ari Myrov from My Sports Update. So we know last night that the 49ers lost Kinlaw to the Jets, and now the details are out. The Jets have signed former 49ers defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw to a 1-year, $7.25 million deal with $6.9 million guaranteed per My Sports Update. Wow. $7.25 million for 1 year for Javon Kinlaw. Good for him. $7.25 million. This man was homeless when he grew up. Shout out to Javon Kinlaw, man. This man got paid $7 million, $6.9 million guaranteed. This man was homeless growing up, eating rats. Now he's a $7.25 million man. Good for him. $7.25 million for a former homeless man. For when his family was growing up, he was a poverty-stricken young man. This is a great story. I don't know if you've heard his story, but it's pretty exceptional. What a guy, man. Good for him. Happy for him. Happy for him. Happy for him. Ian says, while Chase Young is still looking. Yeah, he's still looking. Ian says the Jets have gone mad. It's Robert Salah. That's his dog. Do Robert Salah, does he have Solomon Thomas and Javon Kinlaw on the same defensive lineup? Is Solomon Thomas still on the Jets? Can someone confirm? Is Solomon Thomas still on the Jets? If they have Solomon Thomas and Javon Kinlaw on that defensive line, that's actually fantastic. Wow, they do. Christian Vasquez says they do. Wow, Salah rolling with the two Niner busts. That's crazy work. Solomon Thomas and Javon Kinlaw on the same D line. What a fantastic. Wow, that's awesome. Good for Kinlaw. Anything else, ladies and gentlemen? Any other news out there today? That's about it. The Eagles signed Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back to the team on a 3-year deal. That was interesting, huh? Chauncey Gardner. What do you guys think about that? Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back to the Eagles. I hope the Niners get to play them at some point, and we can troll CJ again. Post the video of the stiff arm from CNC. That was fantastic. The Eagles, though, they had a pretty solid offseason so far. Let's talk about that. Obviously, that's a big rival right there. NFC, they got Saquon Barkley, Bryce Huff, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Devontae Parker, Zach Bond, and Matt Hennessy on the O-line. It's a pretty solid additions to that team. I think they're really upset that they, struggled last year, and they're trying to bring some more stars on that team. So shout out to the Eagles. They're being aggressive. But, at the end of the day, Niners, still better roster, still better team. You got to remember, Eagles lost Kelsey. They lost Fletcher Cox, two big-time cornerstone players. See how it goes. Mario says, do you think we'll trade the 31st for Surtain? Ooh, I would love it. I don't know. You think the 31st is good enough for the Broncos for Patrick Surtain? Possibly. I don't know if you're going to if you're the Broncos, you don't know if you're going to find a player, on the market for someone to trade. And you don't know if anybody else is going to be willing to trade anything higher than the 31st. So honestly, if it's up to me, go for it. Go trade that 31st pick for Patrick Surtain. For the Niners, there may not be anybody better at 31 than Patrick Surtain. Patrick Surtain is a fantastic cornerback. So yes, if I had the opportunity to go get Surtain for 31, yes, do it. But then you got to remember, you don't have a first-round pick. So Julius says, am I going live with Larry tonight? I don't know. I haven't talked to him yet. I've been busy today. I'll reach out to him after this. I hope so. Maybe we will. Deb says 64 in the chat and only 16 likes. Hit that like button, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you hit that like button. My man Red Eye says Surtain is mid. Why is everybody hyping him up? Woo! I don't know. I think Surtain's a top corner. I think so. We'll see. But what do I know? Oh, Jimmy Ward started a live video. Ooh, that should be fun. That guy's always dropping the tea on his live. Maybe I might have to go check that out. If you guys want something to watch, go check out Jimmy Ward. He's live on his Instagram. That guy always has some fun tea out there. Let's see. A couple more questions here, then we'll bounce out. Hope everybody's having a good day. Make sure you hit that like button. Overall, again, Niners, they've got some value picks. They signed 3 defensive linemen for the price of 1 defensive lineman. So we'll see. Again, I feel like they really trust Chris Kasurik to churn these players into much better players than they look on paper. I think that's what the 49ers do. They got Chris Kasurik, and his job is to mold these defensive linemen into quality, very good, solid players that are going to get paid after he gets his hands on them. I think that's really the Niners' MO, is you get these guys that are cheaper, They might not be household names, but he turns them into really solid players. And sometimes it's like a resurgence factory. It's like players that kind of, and maybe they could have been really good. Maybe they were hyped out of college. They kind of flamed out, and then Chris Kasurik he revives their career. It's like he does CPR to these guys. He brings them back to life, and then he gets them paid. So, oh man, but yeah. Any case, you guys have a good rest of your night. Again, Deebo Samuel changes number to number 1. Fred Warner takes a pay cut or restructures his contract. Really takes the bonus, and does what's good for the team. You got to respect him. 49ers re-signed George Odom, the special teams ace, and they signed Jordan Elliot to the defensive line. That's the news for the day. We'll see how the rest of the night pans out, and we will see what happens tomorrow on the first official day of free agency. We'll see. Stay tuned. I don't think it's over. I think we have not even hit the tip of the iceberg, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully tomorrow it is a busy ass day. Y'all have a good night. Take care. Make sure you hit that like button, baby.